And we're going to come into chapter 3, which is a pretty long chapter. And it's like the 5 factors that like obligates us to trust in Hashem. So we're going to repeat some of the 7 things. He's going to give us 5 factors that obligates us to trust in Hashem. The first of those is actually the 7 things, which he's going to list, and he's going to list them in a different order. So I wanted to say, like, last night, I was like, okay, I'm going to, learn my Shara Bitachon. And I got a little distracted, and I was like scrolling through something, whatever. And what comes up? A video of the Rebbe on Bitachon. And I'm like, if that is not from Hashem, what is? And it was a really amazing video. And he is speaking about the dollar bill, actually, and saying it doesn't say like, in God we believe. It says in God we trust, right? The dollar bill doesn't say in God we believe, which is kind of like faith, is belief that there is an existence, but it says in God we trust. Meaning that when we say belief, we talk about faith, it can sometimes be that person's faith can be like they can be detached from it. They have the faith, but it's not there that it affects how they behave in the world. And the famous example given is of the thief who is davening to Hashem for success. Why is he davening to Hashem? Because he knows that if he's going to succeed, it's going to come from Hashem. And he knows that Hashem has the power to help him succeed. But he's totally misaligned from Hashem's will, right? And so one who trusts in Hashem means that he's trusting in the success coming as he remains in alignment with Hashem's will, right? So meaning that he knows, and so in the example with the money, it's like he knows he's not going to cheat in business, because I was actually saying that America is founded on this belief in trust in God, right? That we live our lives morally and ethically according to God's desires, and our success comes through that channel, even though sometimes it can look like in nature, which, like, cheating in business is a good example. Something can look like, oh my gosh, like I need to pinch a penny here, pinch a penny there, right? But really knowing or somebody else is opening a business contrary to mine. There has been examples of somebody opening a business, the same kind of business in the same area, and the Rebbe telling the person, I don't remember who it was, to help the other guy, right? Which that doesn't go according to logic at all, right? Why would somebody help their competitor? But the Rebbe is saying, help him, and you'll succeed, and it won't take away from your business. So, and there's in other examples of our lives. So money is kind of an easy one to pinpoint, but there are other subtle ways sometimes where we want to, we remain in faith and we remain in the belief that it's Hashem, but we kind of step out of alignment with ourselves sometimes, just like, oh, I have to let this little thing go because, or else, this thing won't work out. Or I have to drop this boundary that I put for myself. Maybe sometimes it's a place of work. For me, it's often a place of work. Like, maybe I have to drop this boundary for myself because I'm afraid that if I keep this boundary, like, then maybe I'll lose my job, or maybe I'll lose whatever opportunity. So being able to remain authentic and true to who we are as godly souls, and so really trust, and also teaches us that trust is also more of an intimate connection with Hashem than faith. Because when we think about, if I am just leaving my stuff in somebody's possession and I have no idea who they are and I don't know anything about them, but I'm just like, they're going to take care of it, then that's really faith, right? That's kind of what you would like, right? I don't know who this person is. I don't know any of their qualities. I don't know any of their attributes. I don't know anything about them. They don't really know me. So why would they care about me? And if I'm just leaving stuff with this person and I know they'll take care of it, then that's really faith, right? But if I trust the person, that means, and this is why we're going into the 7 qualities, the 7 things, that means that I know something about that person. So with Hashem, so if I'm trusting Hashem, that means that we actually have to know a little bit about Hashem, and definitely in what areas and in what ways we can rely on Hashem completely, and where we can't rely on anything but Hashem. Right. So that trust is really a much deeper connection with Hashem, amongst other things. I feel like we start Shara Bitachon, like, okay, let's see, I can have, and when the Rebbe tells people to learn it, like, strengthen your Bitachon, learn this a few times. And we're thinking, okay, I want X, Y, and Z, and I'm going to strengthen my Bitachon, and I'm going to not have all this anxiety. I'm not getting it. and I'll get the thing. That's like we start very much in the animal soul, at least me. Start very much in the animal soul, like how can I get what I want? And as we get into the text, like we actually end up, we don't become calm because we know we're getting what we want. We become calm because as we're learning about Hashem, as we're learning different subtle ways that we can let go. Usually the anxiety is not because usually of the one tiny detail. It's like actually our whole framework, our whole frame of mind. We have to refocus everything and recenter and get into alignment of Hashem, who Hashem is, like as much as we possibly can. So that's kind of how, and so chapter 3, there's in this wonderful book, some notes here, and actually, so, and the Rebbe addresses, so when we're the 7 qualities of like what constitutes, like what allows a person to trust in a person, what causes a person to trust in a person, are going to be listed again, and they're going to be listed in a slightly different order, and they're going to be listed with different psukim, and we're going to explain those psukim. And so the Rebbe explains that when Rabbeinu Bachai is bringing this in and he's saying, oh, you should trust in Hashem because here it says in the Torah, like trust in Hashem, right? And they'll bring a pasuk that says it. So that's actually speaking to our soul. That's speaking to our faith, right? That's speaking to the part of ourselves, because like when you think about it logically, it's like, okay, it says it in the Torah, I should trust in Hashem. Like that's a reason. It doesn't really speak to our animal soul so much. So we have we have to also go into like the nuanced discussion, the rational discussion, the logical discussion, because we have to also speak to our animal soul, right? Speak to our body, speak to the perspective in which I'm experiencing life through this limited perspective as Hashem wants it to be. So like we have these two things. We have the aspect of the faith, like, and we hear that it's a pasuk in Torah, and we believe, we're believers. But also the understanding of what that is, and that's really using our Chabad, using our Chachma Bina and Das, and developing and understanding what is that, and what does that mean to me, and how does it apply to me? And we really actually need these both things together, because the advantage of the faith is that, well, the advantage of the understanding is that it's deeper, right? And I'm grasping it and I understand it, I can apply it to myself. The limitation of it is that it's only limited according to what I can understand. The advantage of the faith is that it's actually infinitely higher than I can possibly understand. In fact, I don't understand it. That's like one of the things of faith. Like, I don't understand it. I just believe it. I just know it. So we have to have these two things together. And when we incorporate both of those things together, and when we're using our minds to kind of understand and and follow the rational trail behind these things that are of faith, are of like something that's higher than reason, then we're actually coming to a deeper level of our faith. This is how our faith becomes strengthened, right? It says like the Rebbe, like a Moshe Rabbeinu, he strengthens our faith, and like learning, connecting strengthens our faith. So how is that? Like when we do our part, when we use our animal soul, when we use our seichel, we use our mind and intellect to understand why and how and the reasons of how this is going to work, and it goes into a lot of words and details, then we can marry that to the pasuk in Torah, to the faith that's rooted in that pasuk, and it actually makes our faith even that much deeper, right? So both gain, like our understanding, but our understanding also feeds our faith, so our faith becomes even higher. Okay, so he starts with, so here's these sayings. There's five ideas that when they're understood, then it causes a person to have complete trust in Hashem. And he starts, the first of the 5 things is going through the 7, who remembers any of the 7 qualities of trust? Okay, anyone? All right, the first quality, and they are in different order, which I think is interesting, because we just had that parsha I don't know if this is like the case or anything, and I'm sure there's deeper reasons for why it's not in order, but
Hello?
Hi, yeah, was your hand up? Hi.
Yeah.
Oh, you remembered something.
Here. I've got notes here, and number 1, it says unconditional love, compassion, love and acceptance.
Very good. Beautiful. Very good.
Yeah.
And that, very good. And that is the first one in this list as well. And
Yeah.
so exactly, very good, yeah.
Okay.
And it's interesting because I was speaking about it with my husband a little bit. So I was thinking about how um as I was learning it and thinking like they're not listed in order. And actually, like this particular book makes a point in mentioning this one was mentioned in this order in the first list. This was mentioned in this order. The first one, though, is in the same place. And so, and I was connecting it to the parsha last week we had with Slapkad's daughters, and one place it mentions them in one order, and another place it mentions them in another order. And Rashi's saying that's to tell us that like none was greater than the other. So it was so interesting. I was like, okay, so they're all equally important, right? But in this instance, also because I was speaking to my husband, he was like, well, the most important thing is to know like you're like the love and that you're cared about and that and like it's really the foundation because you can't even make yourself vulnerable to even experience in what it is that you're trusting if you don't have that. And here again, it is listed as the first thing is the first quality of the compassion, and any compassion that we receive from another in this world is actually an expression of Hashem's compassion and mercy, right? And so then we have a pasuk, v'nasan lecha rachamim v'rechamecha v'harbecha. So it's like, and he will grant you compassion and be compassionate with you and multiply you. And so the two parts of it is that he will grant us compassion means not just that he'll be compassionate, because it seems like it's redundant, not just he'll grant us compassion in terms of from another, but he'll grant our hearts compassion. Like he will give us, Hashem lends to us of his compassion. So it means he will grant us compassion that we will experience the feeling of compassion for another and be able also to be a person that's a conduit of Hashem, bringing Hashem's compassion to that person as well. And be compassionate with you, which means he'll behave to us with compassion, and when others behave to us with compassion, it's really Hashem, and multiply you, right? And increase us. Okay, and then the second quality that we have, it's so in this one, the second quality that we have in this one is actually different. And this is that Hashem knows his knowledge and what's best for the person, right? So, and this is like a complicated one a little bit for me because because you always say, okay, well, like faith is I know that what Hashem is doing is for the best, and trust is I know it's going to be good and it's going to be good for me like I see it. And this is saying we know that what Hashem does is for the good, whether I appreciate the goodness or whether I feel like it's very difficult, right? We're saying the complete knowledge that Hashem knows what benefits the person. And the Sefer uses the example of if somebody is like an inventor of something. So if somebody crafts something, he obviously knows how that works more than somebody who didn't invent it. And I saw this thing about somebody getting locked in their Tesla. So, and then the people of Tesla being like, okay, we created the manual, we created the emergency hatch. Like you didn't read the manual. It's not us. So like somebody else they're driving their Tesla. They own the Tesla, but they didn't make the Tesla. So they don't know how to get out of it when they got locked in the Tesla. But the maker worked all those things in. So how much more so does Hashem know us when Hashem even made the stuff that we're made of, right? The guy that made the Tesla, he very smart man, great engineers, but used stuff that was already there, right? It was already all existed. And so the stuff that the thing is made of. But Hashem doesn't just create us in the form of who we are and put us together, but he creates the matter of which we're made of. So he knows us on every single level, on like the atomic level, right? And like beyond. And like there's a discussion about the makos and how, and I don't know, this might not be a little on topic, but we'll just go there. I want to just explain this molecular level thing. There's this discussion in the Haggadah, the different sages had different ideas of how many makos there were at the sea, right? And one says, I think Yossi Aglili says there's 10, and maybe Sally has been Hyrcanus, I can't remember, says there's 40, and Rabbi Akiva says there's 50, because really they're speaking about like the elemental factor. Like, so on the very surface level, there was 10 makos. On a deeper level, if we're talking about the 4 elements, there was 4, like, right? Because you have earth, air, water, fire. And on the 5th level, you're talking about like the koach hilui. How do you say it, Ziv? koach hilui, I don't remember exactly how to say it. The stuff that we're made of, the material, the atomic level, the particles that we're put together with. So we're talking about the fifth level. So we're saying that Hashem knows us on every single level beyond the elements of what we are, but even like down to the molecular level, and even obviously molecules are still creations, so even deeper than that. So he knows everything that can affect that every single thing. So if he is going to create us, then he knows, of course, what is going to be good for us. And bringing this also to like, so what does it mean then if like things happen and they're not necessarily what we would call good? Sometimes we're looking forward to something and it doesn't happen, or something like we just live a regular life and things can be difficult. So I was thinking of a story, I think it was the Rebbe Rashab, where a chassid came, I think it was either Rebbe Rashab. A chassid came for a bracha, and he said, like, I'm sorry, I can't help you. So the chassid goes outside, and he's crying, and then I feel like it was the Razah, maybe so the Rebbe Rashab's brother, I believe, comes in. He said, what happened? What did you do to him? Like, it's like, what? He's like, well, he's crying. He says, oh, he's crying? Bring him back in. I'm going to give him a bracha. So why was he not fit for a bracha? He came in, he obviously has bittul to the Rebbe. He obviously knows that it's beyond his control. He's asking for a bracha for something that's obviously like important enough and also like holy enough that he can go to the Rebbe and ask for a bracha. But so why did it have to take the Rebbe for saying no? It's like he had to be a little bit broken, right? It wasn't that he couldn't have the bracha. He had to become the vessel to receive the bracha. So sometimes, and we don't understand it, but sometimes Hashem is making us into the vessel to receive that bracha, right? Sometimes we can't always receive it. It says, in its time, like not in the time that the person wants, but in the time that Hashem says. So sometimes we are going after something, we want to look a certain way at a certain time, and it's not happening that way. But that's really, and to have that consciousness that really Hashem's just making me into the vessel, and to allow ourselves to be open and vulnerable in that place of those times when we sometimes feel crushed. We sometimes feel or hear that no, or that like rejection or whatever it is, and to allow ourselves to, instead of run away from it and be like, okay, it's not working, or okay, Hashem's not here, to really be like, no, Hashem is here. Like exactly what I'm going through now is exactly what I'm supposed to, be. And when I allow myself to be in it, to experience it, to not run away, then like, I mean, the reward for that is really just having Hashem in the moment right now, but also it's like the infinite things that come from that, the growth that we have, and the vessel that we become to receive bigger, like, more revealed brachas, right? And those brachas then expand us into a bigger vessel, right? Because we should have a beautiful home, men should have beautiful wives, doing this, one of the reasons, all these things, because really, as much as we need to expand to receive the brachas, once we receive the brachas in a revealed way, those things also expand us. It allows us to think bigger. It allows us to come out of a place of contraction. It allows us to dream. It gives us the time to just like breathe and be. So the second one is that. So the second one in this part of it is that Hashem knows like what's good for us, right? Every single thing, like he knows what's going to be best for us, and he's always doing what's best for us. It's not that he knows it, that he's always doing what's best for us. So we're in the other, we listed the 7 before, we said the first one was that Hashem had like the compassion and the empathy and the love, right? And the care. The second was that nothing would stop him. So here, in first is the second thing being that nothing will stop him. We're saying that he knows actually what's good for us. So it's kind of more in line with like the care and the compassion and the empathy in knowing and doing what's best for us from that place. And so this third is the same as the third was before, is actually that he's strong. And so like, obviously, like, why would that has strength matter? Obviously, because if he has the best intentions and knows what's best for us, but if chas v'shalom something could change that plan or be stronger, then that's all great, and we love the intention of it, but it's not practically actually doing it, right? But with Hashem, there's nothing, there's no force, no entity, nothing, there is nothing stronger than Hashem, right? It says, and whatever he desires, he will do. It says, Kol asher chafetz Hashem asa, everything that Hashem desires, he will do. So nothing stands in the way of his desire. It's not Hashem desires and it's no, Hashem desires and it's done. And then another is that there's another pasuk here. Can yet devarai asher yatzah mipi lo yashuv elai rika. Right, the words that come from my mouth, they won't come back. They won't come back empty. Ki yimasa es asher chafatzi, but they'll do what I intend. We know, like in the Megillah, right? We have Achashverosh, who represents. He's the king, right? So he represents Hashem. And once he signed the decree, he said, I'm sorry, I can't rip it up. I'm the king. I signed the decree. Mordechai and Esther, make another decree. You do yours out, but he couldn't take it back. So he's saying the words of Hashem, they leave and they don't come back empty-handed. So Hashem has a desire and nothing will stop him. And once he decrees it, again, it's not going to come back without the fulfillment. And there's nothing strong enough to stand in the way. And the nothing strong enough stands in the way means even ourselves, even when we're not the keli for it, right? Even when we aren't the vessel. And the Rebbe once said to somebody who wanted, I think she wanted a bracha from the Rebbe, and the Rebbe said, you can ask my wife, the Rebbetzin, you can ask the Rebbetzin for a bracha, like her brachas are even stronger, like over more powerful. And so because why? Like the bracha of a Rebbe, it's comes in a way where we need to be a vessel for it. It comes from a malach olam, and it comes from a place that we need to be a vessel to receive that. And it says where there's in the Likutei Diburim, it says where there's a chassid, there's a rebbe. There's a chassid not really being a chassid, there's not really a rebbe, which is like a crazy thing to think about. But it's like you need to be engaged in the relationship. Like where there's a husband, there's a wife. Like you have to be involved and awake in the relationship. It's not just a one-sided thing. You have to show up. So when the bracha from a Rebbe comes in a way, we need to be a vessel for it. We said the brachas of the Rebbetzin, they come from Sovav Kol. You don't have to be a bracha for it. You don't have to be a vessel for the bracha. The bracha will find you, make you into a vessel, and you'll get it. So this is also part of the knowing that, and it kind of goes hand in hand. Like when we're in that place sometimes of things not looking like we wanted them to, or we're going through a time of difficulty or crushedness or disappointment, to know like Hashem is, this is Hashem, and it doesn't change the outcome. It doesn't change the reality. It doesn't change the goodness. It's just like, it's keeping that perspective. Like I'm going to find Hashem here. I know that this is good. Like this is actually good. Not it's going to be good, but this itself is actually good. Hashem is actually here. And knowing also sometimes Hashem's making us the vessel. And at the same time, knowing that he also doesn't need to. What he's agreed to do, like it will happen. Nothing's going to stop it. Not even my own self. Not even my own fears. We have like this thing. Sometimes we're more afraid of our success than we are of our failure. And it's like, so not even myself will get in the way, right? So, and sometimes I feel like a lot of times these days, the thing that gets in our way the most is unfortunately can be ourselves sometimes, especially like when it comes to inner matters. Okay, and the fourth quality is that he is completely aware and completely intimately involved in all of a person's affairs, right? And he doesn't ignore them. And so this really goes into the hashgacha pratis, like every little detail of all of reality. Have you guys ever heard of the butterfly effect? Yeah. Right, the butterfly flaps its wings and like it changes the whole ecosystem, or like all of reality. Like, so this is what the Baal Shem Tov teaches with hashgacha pratis, that there's not a blade of grass, right? There's nothing. Everything is, because if Hashem is constantly creating the world, something from nothing, and his awareness of things is what causes them to exist, right? To come into existence eventually, or through speech, but to come into existence, then how could it, right? How could he not be aware of anything, right? His awareness is of everything, and how much more so, if you could even say more so, but like it's deeper, right? The life of a Jew, right? If he's completely aware of a blade of grass or a butterfly or an insect, then how much more so like the life of a Jew and all the particulars in our life. And the safety here also is knowing that there's nothing, knowing that there's nothing hidden from Hashem. Like we can't pretend in front of Hashem. Like we can't really pretend in front of ourselves, which we do sometimes. But but that we have a place that we can be completely vulnerable and completely exposed, because whether we want to or not, we already are, right? And so it's allowing ourselves to, sometimes we're afraid to be vulnerable, like even with ourselves, but it's allowing ourselves to take down, because like sometimes we just have all these voices, all these different characters in our lives, and we're just like afraid to just like be, but like to allow ourselves to even just like to be vulnerable with ourselves, to know like this safe place, like Hashem is in every detail of my life. And so obviously if he has complete knowledge of every detail of my life, so and he's totally involved in every single thing, then it's and he's constantly creating every single thing, then clearly if he has infinite compassion and empathy and knows what's best for me and is strong and nothing will stop him, and knows every little and is constantly creating every detail of my life, then for sure we can like feel completely safe and taken care of, right? And have trust in the here and now. And one of the thing with trust, it's like being conscious and present in our reality, right? To being like, because it's kind of like you can't really, and as we're learning this, you can't really have in Shara Bitachon, it's like he's like, first you need, all right, he's like, first let me sell it to you, these are the benefits. And he's like, you need these 7 things, and he's like, okay, and then these 5 things, and the first 7, and the 7 are included in the first thing of the 5, like, so, and it's like we need to be there. We can't just be like, okay, I trust, like Hashem's good, I trust. We can, and we should all live in that place. I mean, but that's more of a place of faith, right? So, which is an amazing thing. And there's like, but we're just coming into a deeper, more conscious place of being, because the thing with faith is that it's always above us anyway. And like, I feel like on Sukkot, that's like when we are drawing down, right, the makifim with the lulav and the sukkah, like when we draw a makif into a panimi, we kind of get a new makif, right? Like, because the encompassing light like relates to the inner light. So when we internalize our faith, which is kind of what bitachon is, when we become conscious here and now and present here and now, we're allowing that level of the faith, of the mystery of the faith, of like, so that part, like the romanticism of the faith, of like, but like having the faith and not exactly knowing, or just knowing it's going to be good, that part of it, we allow it to, even that part, feel obviously more personal when we draw it into us with the understanding, with the tools of our mind, and understanding how to get to a place of trust, of bitachon. And the 5th, so now we're doing the 5th one, and the 5th one here is that no creation has power to help or harm him, right? So, and no other person, no person has so it means even like himself, like we were saying before, in terms of like, sometimes we think, oh, I need to be the vessel, and so I'm responsible to make myself a vessel. No, Hashem is responsible. We need to show up. We need to show up and be totally present. And showing up and being present actually means that a person will automatically do what's needed of them at the time. It's hard to be present and not be engaged, right? If you're present, you're engaged. If we're trying, sometimes we're trying to be spiritual, so we can be like aloof sometimes to what's going on around us, maybe even with other people, or we don't have space for it. When we're totally present, we and like available, we can contain, right? We can really show up. We can contain ourselves. We can sometimes have space for another. We can be there. And so but this knowing that we become all of that because we are acknowledging, like, in this way, like, where when we understand that, like, nothing else, not even myself, has the power to, like, to hurt or to help without permission of Hashem, right? So there's actually, very sad. There was a girl actually where the work that she like jumped off the roof. It's really crazy. It's not something you should just say lightly, but and it's really crazy. But she lived, like, not paralyzed, got up, she's walking around now. And I was speaking to a friend of hers, like, really, like, nothing, like, because she was just like, well, and speaking about, like, what if a person can't really decide to end their life, chas v'shalom. A person, Hashem can do anything, right? Like, and even if we think, and how, so that's a very extreme example. So let's talk about Baruch Hashem, like, healthy and people that love themselves and are working on themselves. But sometimes we think in a really subtle way, like, oh, I could sabotage myself and I could hurt myself here or hurt myself there, right? But we don't really have the power to mess up Hashem's brachas. We don't really have, and also when things happen to us from the outside, that maybe somebody speaks to us in a way that we're not really so happy with, or we take it a certain way and it feels like maybe we feel offended or unappreciated or whatever else. Nothing can happen to us, like, without Hashem's allowing it to, causing it to. Things, interactions happen to us through people in our lives, but it's really all Hashem doing it, right? They're like, we're kind of like, in a sense, they're like characters in our story. And there's always the example with Yosef and his brothers, which we talked about before. They threw him, right? They threw him in the pit, and he wasn't like, oh wow, they're horrible people, I'm going to stay resentful about that. He was like, no, okay, Hashem has a mission for me. I'm showing up with Hashem. Like, let's see where he takes me. And it says wherever he was Matzliach. He was successful wherever he was, whether he was in Potiphar's house, whether he was in prison, when he was viceroy, whatever he was doing, when he was in the wagon, whatever he did, he was Matzliach, because he was completely and totally with Hashem in the story, right? In his story, he was totally just like, here I am. He wasn't looking to blame. He wasn't looking to speak about, okay, this woman framed me. No, he was like totally, and obviously a lot was expected of him. He was at a very high level, but like totally totally present in the moment, totally present in the story, totally showing up the same way that we say Hashem is knowledgeable of every intimate detail of our lives. It also invites us to come into an intimate place with Hashem, right? If he's in every intimate detail of my life, then I'm able to show up there, and Hashem will meet me there. When I go into the parts of myself that maybe sometimes I don't really want to go into, maybe I don't feel comfortable there, like, right? But when we allow ourselves to go there, knowing like that's where Hashem is. We meet Hashem there because like Hashem's in the dark parts, right? Even if we don't always like being there, but that's where Hashem is. And so why not? And like, and when we do that, we actually find like the light and the depth and the beauty in those places, and things turn into, and our reality, like, it's not that we're not looking for darkness, chas v'shalom, but we are, I think part of the bitachon is knowing that it's good and revealed good, but knowing that like there are so many little things along the way. Let's say there's a big goal and we're going after it, and that's the vision. There are so many tiny little things in our lives along the way, and knowing that even if something happens, is not just like being able to see the good and see the God. And when we find Hashem in those places, the whole thing transforms into light, right? It becomes something that we end up being so grateful for. And yes, we do want everything to come to a way. We've like suffered enough as a people and everything, and we want everything to come in a way of sweetness and goodness and abundance and bliss. And we don't want to have to go through difficult things. And we always we daven for Bitachon, right? We talked about that at the beginning. We daven that we receive our blessings in a sweet way, and we daven for open and revealed good. Like, I don't need to be such a deeper person. Like, after going through something hard, sometimes we're like, oh yeah, it became so deep for that. It's like, and then it's like, okay, I don't need to be that deeper person. Like, keep it easy. I'm good. I'll show up now. But it's really choosing that avoda of the showing up is kind of the point. And sometimes when we're resisting showing up, it's like we become kind of invited to it in those places. We're kind of creating a vacuum, like, right? A vacuum sucks things into it. So like when there's a part of ourselves that's kind of avoiding ourselves, that place kind of becomes a vacuum to like bring ourselves back into it. If that makes, I don't know if that makes any sense. And I don't know how I got on that, but okay, so I did. And then we have that a person, and also another thing in this is that a person that nobody else can harm or help him is the idea of a servant having only one master. Because if a servant has two masters, then he could just be like, okay, this one's not giving me the thing. It's like, mom and dad, this one's not giving me the thing, I'm gonna ask this one, right? This one, maybe he can't figure it out, he's not strong enough, he's not rich enough, he's not whatever else, I'll go ask the other one. But if somebody has only one master, then he's looking right just to that. So when we're speaking of a master that's not a flesh and blood master, but it's infinite compassion, empathy, right? Holding, like, knowing what will benefit us, doing what will benefit us, strong, that nothing's going to ever prevent him, that he's totally aware of every little nook and cranny of who we are and all of the stuff that we're made of, and that we are totally in his hands and no other. And so no person can come into, like, step into, can deprive me or step into like my space and affect me in, like, can take away my value or take away my worth or take away what's like right, like, like sometimes we come in fear because something didn't go the way we planned or we didn't get whatever, and we think, oh no, I'm not going to get that thing, or that's never going to work out, or this, I wasn't respected in the way I need to be. But when we can come into that place of the infinite love and like respect, and that we're totally cherished and totally taken care of and totally safe, and that's the master that we're a servant to, is the merciful one, right? Is not a human master of flesh and blood, not somebody that's gonna, not like a human master that's gonna like shame us if we're late to work or whatever else. No, it's like infinite love and compassion, and really choosing that, or allowing ourselves to like become aligned and aware of that, like, who's really in control here. And that helps us stay in alignment with ourselves. Like sometimes we step out of it because we're trying, again, like we said at the beginning, to like work the system of like, okay, if I finagle this little thing here or here or here, or somebody says something else we don't like, and we think I need to immediately tell them that it was wrong or yell back at them or whatever else because I need to fix the situation, instead of being like, okay, I didn't like that, I'm not gonna lie about it, but I'm here, I'm still good, Hashem is here. Being able to like hold the trust, like, that happened for a reason, it wasn't an accident, and I don't need to respond to it, and I don't need to feel bad about myself about it, right? Like I'm allowed to just be, right, in this, like, in this place. Why? Because I'm the only one that I'm serving is Hashem. I'm not serving my ego that needs to start screaming back and explaining all the ways that I was hurt or wronged or whatever else. I'm not serving my fear that's gonna, start concocting plans to like get myself out of this because it's so uncomfortable. No, I'm serving Hashem. Okay, that's like, I'm good. I'm still here. I'm, I'm whole. I'm good. And it's not lying to ourselves, saying that, people that we love, people that we're close to, things can hurt us, but being able to be honest with it, and it also allows it to experience the emotion and stay real and whole in our hearts, when we know that we're really the only one whose hands we're in are Hashem's hands. Okay. And we have, and so now the sixth is that we recognize the great kindness, that the generosity of Shem, right? He's good to those who deserve and those who are not, right? And so when we know that the one we are trusting has infinite compassion and empathy and love, that he knows what is best for the person. He knows every particle, what they're made of, and knows what will be the truest good. Because like I think we said before, sometimes the good we want for ourselves, like we talked about the story of the cow, Hashem's vision is a greater good, is a greater vision, right? So he knows what will be the best for us, and to make us into those kalim, and also to give us those brachas that will grow us into and expand us, right? He can give us a sweetness greater than the sweetness that we're going after, because he knows every fiber of our being. As much as he knows how to grow us or make us into a vessel, he also knows how to make us delight in him, because ultimately Hashem wants a dwelling in this world, and a relationship, and the depth of a relationship doesn't come when you're arguing or when you're trying to see the good and the bad. The depth of a relationship comes when you're in pleasure and goodness and bliss, right? So what does Hashem really want more? Does he, like, yeah, okay, it's great that we can go through other things, but really what he really wants, and what's really good for us, and not just he wants it because it's good for us, but it's also good for him, because that's what makes the relationship really a relationship where we're like enjoying each other and dancing with each other and loving each other. So that's the second, is that like he knows how to get that out of us, right? He didn't forget all those things. He didn't like, he doesn't want a relationship to remain up here. He wants it to be in our kishkas, in the molecules of our being, in like every atom and all of our created identity. He wants our connection to him to be within that. And that's like also, it's not, so that's also, I think that's the ultimate thing that we always have to keep in mind, is also like Hashem's desire, the same way like our husbands want to make us happy. Hashem's desire is to connect to us in a way of joy and pleasure and delight and happiness. That's the Mashiach reality, and knowing that. And so then the three, that he's strong and nothing will stop him from this, not even ourselves, not even our fears, not even anything. And that he is aware and constantly creating every single nook and cranny of our lives, and that we are in nobody's hands but his, and he is entirely generous. So the good that I want for myself pales in comparison to the good that he wants for me. And not, it pales in comparison, oh, I grew through the struggle, but pales in comparison, oh, this is like so delicious, I didn't even know it existed. Or this is, I think I mentioned it before with Zvi Friedman. He mentioned, he said when he had his first child, he like was like present, was like, whoa, this is a new emotion. Like he said, it was a new kind of love. And it was interesting because he said it was an interesting feeling. That wasn't something like how can you feel something you've never felt before? And that's good. Often like we're feeling things we never felt before because like I'm having anxiety and I don't know what this is, or this is a new thing. I don't know if I like it. I'm only used to X, Y, and Z. No, like to allow ourselves to develop these like new expanded emotions, to like feel and experience the good things. So like Hashem, that he's generous means not just, oh, he's going to give me what I want according to my understanding of things because he's generous. Generous means a person wants to give you more than what you even asked for. It's not to give somebody exactly what they asked for. That's great. But like generosity is giving even more. Like, oh, like you want this thing, I'm going to make it even sweeter for you. It's going to be even better for you. You're going to have even more, and you're going to find me in it even more, right? That's what I'm saying. Like, and in what you have, like this is going to be like our place. This world is our garden, and this is where we're going to meet. And then we have the seventh is that the seventh thing is that I forgot the seventh thing. Oh, right, is that it was impossible to change. He doesn't change, right? You can't add to him or decrease him, right? Nothing can like there's no limit. Nothing can add or decrease them. There's no accidents, right? He's in complete control of every little thing. And that here, we should just read it inside. My vision's really blurry. Okay, I can't really see it inside, but it said nothing it's impossible to like add or subtract to whatever he decrees. It happens in its fullest measure, and nothing can, does anybody else have the other seventh thing there? We can get into it next time. Sorry, Ruth, you have it there? Okay, we'll get into it next time. Dun dun dun. Cliffhanger. We're gonna get into the seventh one next time, and then we can go into the next part of this. So that was the first of the five. That was our first of the five things that obligate us to trust in Hashem, right? These are like, it makes it that we are, right? We spoke about at the beginning also, if it was like a mitzvah, it was a good suggestion. There's like, when we have this knowledge, it obligates us to trust in Hashem because we recognize that there is nothing else. So, and we have this thing, we're created with this thing called trust, and there is nothing else. So it kind of is like, oh, well, I have to trust. I have to place this thing called trust. I have to place it in Hashem, right? And when we do it in this way, with understanding, like the different parts of it, it actually becomes a deeper trust and a deeper relationship, right? And something that we can show up for on a daily basis. And I mean, really, like it really is like a moment basis. Like a person can live in a state of, like, it's a state of being, right? It's not a state of doing, it's a state of being. It's not like, oh, I need these things, those things that get us into learning it because we want to manifest that thing or whatever else, that's like the carrot on the stick, right? For the animal soul. But really, when we do it, we become that we are a person that lives in trust. Like it is how it is our state of being, not just according to a matter that we're going after, but in all matters, in our way of life, in everything. And this is like, and a person like that is a person that you find like it's pleasant to be there because there's so much space for others. Like to be in trust really means you have to come into bittul. We have to come out of fear. We have to go into, right? There's fear and trust. It's coming out of fear and coming into a place of safety and abundance and sweetness and goodness, and to not be afraid also of, I think it's also really is an important thing to not be afraid when things are tricky, and to be able to show up there. Because sometimes when we're going, and that's why I spoke about it, but because I know it's not the ultimate goal, but sometimes like we're going after something and things are hard and we think like, okay, I know that this is still going to happen. And we have this fear of like, okay, I can get myself out of this, or I'm afraid of that energy. Like, I don't like it. I can't be near, but being like, this is part of that too. Like, this is just like one speck in like a huge painting. Like, this is just like a cool, like, and to be able to show up in all the parts and knowing like, so, and not forcing, we don't have to force anything, right? We want to be patient and present and yeah, and aware, and also have the ability to, because sometimes it's in those places where things don't look like we thought, that actually Hashem's setting us up for like in the mystery, in the darkness, in the shadow, is sometimes this amazing sweetness, like that emotion that we never felt before, or like that candy we never tasted, or like the thing that we wouldn't have, like, you know, the cow that was eaten, the thing that we wouldn't have the chutzpah, because we think we have chutzpah to go and ask for that thing, or to allow ourselves to dream of it, to come into ourselves fully. But so okay, so I guess we'll stop here for today, and Yeah. So just who, so yeah, I don't know. This was like the last one of the month. And I hope that you guys continue to show up or come. And who has any, does anybody have any takeaways?